First, I want to preface everything I'm about to say by detailing this. I hate the Philadelphia Eagles. Not only do I hate them passionately. And by the way, I say hate, of course, in a sports context. I don't hate anybody, any individual person or entity. But I don't like the Eagles' colors. I don't like the city of Philadelphia. Their fans are the most obnoxious and vulgar there is in all of the land. Although Boston, when it comes to vulgarity, they make a strong case. And when it comes to, just in terms of how they act, their decorum, Alabama fans don't come that far behind. I don't like anything about the Eagles. So I want to emphasize that before I say what I'm about to say, and it's kind of the core of my argument. This whole, Philadelphia's lucky. They somehow just back into these wins. Yes, they are lucky. But that shouldn't be looked at as some sort of detractor from what they're doing as a team. It's not even only a situation where 10-1. I don't totally, I've said all season, I don't totally buy into the old Bill Parcells quote. And I quote Bill Parcells often on the show, but the old Bill Parcells quote, you are what your record says you are. Philadelphia is one of those teams. Yeah, they are what the record says they are. They look like a 10-1 team, at least in the offensive side of the ball. Getting the defense a little later. But Eagles are lucky. These last 4 games, they've just escaped. Just got out of here barely intact. Against Washington, who, 4-8 Washington today, and against Dallas, and against the defending champion Chiefs, who I'll talk about later in the show. And then yesterday against the Bills, they just barely escaped. They got lucky. Yes, so did the 2014 New England Patriots, who, due to preparation and due to a beyond bad call by whoever called that play for Seattle, not run the ball with Marshawn at the 1-yard line, yeah, they got lucky, but they have rings to show for it. The 2015 Warriors did not play the starting point guard. I'm a Warriors fan, by the way. The starting point guard for any of their playoff opponents in 2015. None of them. Heck, last year's Georgia Bulldogs are a made field goal by Ohio State away from losing the semifinal, and we're not talking about them as the back-to-back defending national champions. Every team, especially great ones, get lucky. This is why I've always pushed back against the argument about, this team, there's an asterisk next to their title. No. The only asterisk next to anybody's title is if there's some sort of explicit, clear, and obvious cheating. See the 2017 Houston Astros. There's an asterisk next to that title. That's an illegitimate championship. Everybody else, one fair and square, play by the rules, so to speak. Yes, did they get lucky? Of course. Every great team gets lucky. I was not aware that this was the English Premier League or the college football playoff where, you need style points. It's got to look a certain way. Isn't that why I and a lot of folks say I don't care if Florida State goes undefeated? They are not objectively one of the 4 best teams in college football. That doesn't matter in the NFL. Philadelphia's not competing for a playoff spot through sexy style points. They do it because they know how to win. And they know how to win different ways. This is what I said on Wednesday's show. And this is why I have Philly over San Francisco, who, at least to me, inexplicably, the Niners are favored at Philly. It's one thing if the Niners were 2.5-point favorites, it's at home. That would make sense. These are 2 evenly matched teams when you really, carve them up, so to speak, to use the name of the show. But Philadelphia is a dog at home. San Francisco's great, but you know what I haven't seen San Francisco do? Win when things aren't perfect. Whether that's on Brock Purdy, whether that's on Kyle Shanahan, the defense, everybody. I've seen Philly win a lot when things aren't perfect. They certainly weren't perfect against Sam Howell of the Washington Commanders on the road, divisional rival. For the record, this team beat you last year in Philly on Monday Night Football. Is Jalen Hurts' only loss last season outside of the Super Bowl was to Washington. Sam Howell's dealing. He's getting a Terry McLaurin and all the playmakers for the Commanders. And Philly somehow finds a way to win because Jalen Hurts and A.J. Brown are literally unstoppable in the second half. Against the Dallas Cowboys, in a game where their quarterback gets outplayed by the other team's quarterback, Dak Prescott, they somehow find a way to win. Why? Situational football. Picking up big third downs. Executing well defensively late game. Getting against a red-hot Cowboys offense with Dak. Got to stop on 4th down. Got to stop in the end zone when Dallas and Dak threatened to punch it in for the win there at the end. Execution, good coaching. 2 weeks later, our quarterback's out playing the other team's quarterback, Jalen Hurts, to Patrick Mahomes, but, this is Mahomes. This is Andy Reid coming off of a bye. This is Travis Kelce. This is all these receivers in Kansas City who we get on for the drops, but they do separate. Separating is not their issue. Yeah, they can win an ugly game. A defense, again, get into them later, that I have beyond massive questions about. The numbers back it up. Philadelphia won a defensive battle at Kansas City at Arrowhead Stadium. And then yesterday, short week, not a lot of rest. Yes, they're at home, but they're in crappy weather, and that's an understatement. The weather was sucked in Philadelphia yesterday. Josh Allen had his best game of the season. I'll get into Buffalo in about 5 to 10 minutes. That game was not on Josh Allen. I think we'd all agree with that. But Josh Allen's playing unbelievable, carving up your defense, and Jalen Hurts leads a tying drive at the end of the fourth quarter, led multiple go-ahead drives before that, and then in overtime, led the walk-off drive. Yes, if Gabe Davis turns around, or if him and Josh Allen on the same page, Buffalo wins that game. But don't we kind of get on teams or make fun of teams who are handed breaks and don't capitalize? I think about the Cincinnati Bengals last year. Cincinnati was rolling last season. Joe Burrow people were saying, oh, is Joe Burrow better than Patrick Mahomes? I mean, he's 3-0 against Mahomes. He's beat Mahomes at Arrowhead, and AFC title game, Mahomes' ankle is barely functional at this point, and Kansas City won, and Mahomes outplayed Burrow. And I think I was in the minority of people who did this, but I put a lot of heat on Burrow and on the Bengals for not taking advantage. And I hate having to defend Philadelphia. I really do. I don't like the Eagles at all. I hope they don't win the Super Bowl. But I find myself in a position where I'm having to defend them. You know, it's not like people get on Dallas for beating up on a weak schedule, or Detroit or Miami or teams like that. This is the toughest stretch of football that any team could be playing right now. And I said in week 6, when Philly lost that game to the New York Jets, and Zach Wilson didn't play great, but outplayed Hurts because Hurts threw 3 picks, could have been 4. But I said this upcoming stretch for Philly, Miami, Washington, who's beaten you in the past, Dallas twice, and San Francisco, and Buffalo, and Kansas City, and Seattle, at Seattle. If they get through the stretch with I said 6-2, I'm all in on the Philadelphia Eagles. I'm certainly not going to backtrack now and act like, well, actually there's an asterisk next to this notion that the Eagles are the only team to get lucky. It just happens week after week. Well, the 2015 Warriors got pretty lucky with playing a bunch of injured teams. Guess what? Nobody really cares. They have a ring to show for it. It doesn't really matter. Al Davis said it best, man. Just win, baby. The NFL, it's not about style points. It's not about looking good. By the way, when has Philadelphia in a win looked aesthetically pleasing? It's not really their brand. People love them some Baltimore Ravens, who aren't as skilled as Philadelphia. Lamar Jackson, and I love Lamar Jackson, is not as good as Jalen Hurts. Coaching staff in Baltimore, great. They are not good in the fourth quarter, even in a win. We saw that last night. Philadelphia is an excellent fourth quarter team, and in last case, overtime team. Yes, Nick Sirianni gets on my nerves like he gets on everybody's nerves that doesn't live in Philadelphia. But outside of that, the Eagles, and I said this when I remember after last year's NFC Championship game, I said, I hate the Eagles. I want to keep reemphasizing that. Hate the Eagles. But they are the absolute model of what you want your organization to look like. Smart, hands-off owner, Jeffrey Lurie, not a meddler, not a Jerry Jones, or the guy David Tepper in Carolina who just fired another head coach today. Smart guy who employs smart people like Howie Roseman, who I would argue is the best general manager in the sport. It's either him or John Lynch, in my view, who is great in the draft, great in free agency, great at the trade deadline, adding Kevin Bynard and company, and it got guys last year. And Jalen Hurts, who, even in a game where he was objectively awful in the first half, I think he had like 33 yards passing. He was terrible in the first half. Rebounds. Cool, calm, collected. Jake Elliott makes that kick from 59 yards out. It was an incredible kick. All the pressure in the world. It's raining. It's crappy weather. Makes the kick. They show Jalen on the sideline. Not only does he look unenthused, he's sitting there shaking his head. And you know what's going through Jalen's head? Man, we could have scored here. The way Buffalo was playing that defense, we could have scored here. We could have won the game here. Now we got to go to overtime. Cool, calm, collected, level-headed. If there's anybody I trust in the NFL when it's late game fourth quarter, aside from Mahomes, not many guys I trust more than Jalen Hurts. I gotta be honest with y'all. That guy is rock solid. And so is this Eagles organization and this Eagles roster. Yes, I've seen San Francisco at their peak dominate people. Same with Dallas. But, and this to me applies more to the Niners than does the Cowboys, when things aren't going so well, Brock Purdy doesn't look so special, does he? Kyle Shanahan. I love Shanahan. By the way, I love Purdy. Love Shanahan. Not looking so creative. Philadelphia, I don't care. Just roll the ball out. Let's go play football. Love that. They have multiple ways to beat you, which is why they are still today, not to spoil Bryson's best 10 on Wednesday, clearly the best team in the National Football League. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.